to make that work out for you. The problem is that, well, as you've heard about it before, there has been some challenges with Zoom bombing. And so Durham Public Schools addressed that concern by giving all of the students their own Zoom accounts. And so as part of the way of addressing that, we have this system called single sign-on. So I'm going to go ahead and take you over to screen 2, which is how I begin the process of teaching my students, and give you a walkthrough. So a little bit about me is, obviously I'm a culinary instructor located at Northern High School. I've been a chef for 24 years. And while I am a chef, my flexibility with technology is something that I've always needed to have as a part of. Culinary arts is taught from person to person, and so technology is something that's always been a part of it. I am part of the Northern High School Canvas team, and so I spend a lot of my time working with teachers, showing them how to fix problems with Canvas or to help with their professional development. I've also produced many videos showing students and teachers how to do certain features on Canvas or PowerSchool, or how to do things like clear the cache on Chromebooks, and of course videos about culinary arts. I think one of the things that causes a lot of stress for our students is understanding this concept of bandwidth. Okay, one of the things that everybody understands is, well, I need speed to connect to the internet, and that's true, but you need to have the right kind of speed. And so come back to me for a second. When I'm talking about the right kind of speed, you've got speed going out to the internet, and you've got speed coming down to the computer. There's also speed, how fast it goes to the internet and comes back to you. And those last two are the ones that are kind of the most important when it comes to Zoom. And so when I was showing you those figures just a moment ago, and I'll take you back so we can look at it again, you can run a speed test on your computer, and that will kind of give you a guess as to how good it is. But the good thing is that no matter how awesome your internet is or how limited your internet is, Zoom will make adjustments. But sometimes you have to make the adjustment, okay? Maybe one of the troubles that you're having when you're connecting is you're hearing the teacher's voice sounding stuttering, okay? It's not them often. More often than not, it's the connection. Perhaps you're using some kind of a face communicating on your phone, maybe FaceTime or video pictures on your phone, okay? And you've seen the picture get all like digital, or the voice sounds a little stuttery, okay? What ends up happening is the phone is trying to make a decision. Do I focus on sending video, or do I focus on sending audio? And then it gets confused. Conversely, it's doing the same for receiving audio and video. It doesn't know 100% what to do, so it does its best to get them all. And so one of the ways that we can address it is by helping it make that decision. I can not send my picture to my teacher, and then therefore they'll hear my audio better. And if the teacher turns their video off, then I can get a little bit more as well. And so that's just one thing. But another thing is that, well, internet is much better than it used to be, because now we have the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum and the 5 gigahertz spectrum. Very technical, so forgive me, and I'll clarify that in just a moment. The 2.4 gigahertz spectrum is the one that it's always been. And the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum is getting congested, okay? And so what ends up happening is that has a speed limit of about 100 megabytes a second. And so what ends up happening is that when you reach that limit, well, that's about all it can do. And it's also sharing that bandwidth with things like a little bit of microwave energy and some cordless phones. That 5 gigahertz frequency, and if you can get onto that one, it's always the better one. The smaller number one has more range, but the bigger one has more capacity. And so when you're making that decision, maybe you should think about that. A question popped up in the chat that says, I don't want to show my house. How can I get a background? And the answer to that question goes simple. If you have a Chromebook, then I have bad news. You can't do it. The Chromebooks have a limit on your ability to add backgrounds. They're just not able to do it. The fact of the matter is that the Chromebooks are not able to support that. If you want to have a background like that, then what you want to do is to use a PC. That's the only option that is currently available. That may change, but that's the current option. The other option is that, well, you don't have to show the background behind you. I have a lot of students that have that concern, and the way that they address it is that they just show the ceiling. And I look at some ceiling fans and I ask them to wave, okay? And that's okay. I value more that little wave, even though I may be looking at a ceiling fan or a wall. I value that as a teacher more than necessarily seeing a face, because the picture is kind of blurry anyway. So don't worry about that. I value hearing your voice more than I value the picture. And if you want to show a picture, you have the ability to add a picture, and you can put the most beautiful picture of you into Zoom as your profile picture, and everybody will know that that's you. Another question says, I don't understand Zoom. Does Zoom offer classes for parents? And this class right here is designed to help for parents, help students as they try to log into Durham Public Schools. There are lots of videos on Zoom, but, well, let me give you an example. With your school account, let's say you're here in Durham and you have a grandmother in California. You can use this account and communicate with them. And that's a great thing, because you can just set up a meeting and talk. You can increase that social interaction within your family, all because you have a school account. So that's one thing that can be very helpful. Can you do a basic demonstration on how to navigate Zoom? Absolutely. You have my promise. I'm definitely going to do that. Are you saying that if I stop my video, I should be able to hear better? Yes. If you stop your video, you should be able to hear better. Okay. And the reason, and one of the things you can do is you can kind of check and see how your bandwidth is going. And I'm going to talk to you about that. I'm going to show you how to look at that. What about my friends? Can I talk to them on Zoom without my teacher? Yes and no. The answer is that you are still a student in school. So you're not in a free forum like you would in class. You can't just casually talk to the person next to you and say, hey, how you doing today? What some teachers do is they allow the chat to be open so that you can talk back and forth to each other. Some other teachers say, no, I don't want to have that feature, and they disable it so that students can only talk to the teacher. If you want to enable that feature, one of the ways you can do that is to have that conversation with your teacher and say, hey, Mr. Or Miss So-and-so, can we enable chat so we can talk to each other? And if the teacher is willing, they'll do it. But you can also spend time during Wellness Wednesday and do it then. You could join a club, or you can just set up your own Zoom meeting in your own account and talk to your friends that way. Good questions. So I'm going to take you back over, because I think one of the biggest problems that students are having with it when it comes to getting into class, and that is trying to sign in through single sign-on. Single sign-on is really important because it helps to protect you in class. There is nothing more stressful for a parent than sending your kid to class and then not knowing what's going to happen, somebody acting inappropriately. What single sign-on does is it makes sure that the people who are in the class are people who are supposed to be in the class. And so what that does, and so when you sign into it, that's how you protect that environment, that learning environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick video on what that process looks like, and then we'll talk again. So I'm going to take you for a quick ride over to screen 2, and here we go. And I'll make this video available to you guys later on. So here's my video about single sign-on. Hi friends, Chef Reddy from Northern High School. I've got a quick tutorial for you on how to use single sign-on to log into Zoom to get to your classes. First, we'll start off with going to zoom.us. Okay. Once we're at Zoom, you go ahead and click on sign on. I know you'll be tempted to put your email address. Don't. Scroll down to the bottom here and click on single sign-on, or SSO. Your company domain is DPSNC. It has .zoom.us already in place for you. You hit continue. It's going to ask you to sign into your account. My account is it will ask you to enter your password. It will ask you if you want to save your password. Whether or not you save your password is your call. That's okay. And at that point, it will bring you up any meetings that you have already in your schedule, stuff that you've already been invited to. So, for example, it could populate it with stuff if your teachers have populated it into Canvas. But once you go through this login process, so I'm going to pause the video right there. Question in the chat said, well, what about my friends? Can I talk to them on Zoom without my teacher? Do you see the button there that says schedule a meeting? Each of you will have that button, and you can schedule a meeting and talk to your friends and engage in your classmates that way. Let's say, for example, you want to, you want to work, do a group project. You can absolutely do a group project through this. Okay, you can do that. You can talk to your friends who are in other schools this way. You can work. You can talk to your grandmother in a different state this way. You have this tool available to you to support your learning, but it also supports your emotional needs, okay? Because, I mean, I know how difficult it is for you to be separated from your family. I'm separated too, and we care about that. That's why we have Wellness Wednesday, because supporting your learning is more than just going to school. It's also about taking care of you, and so that's just a part of it. I'm going to take you back over to screen 2 for one more second here. Zoom remembers that you are logged in. Okay, so I'm going to open. So what I was saying there in a second about Zoom remembering you logged in is very simple. When you log into Zoom, what you would do is you would go through that single sign-on at the very beginning of the day. And once you're done, Zoom will remember that you signed in. You'll know that because over here in the corner, your picture will appear, or your name will appear, or your initials will appear. And instead of saying join, it'll say host a meeting. That's how you know that you're signed in. Okay? Open up a new tab, and then I'm going to close Zoom. And so I'll give you another example. Once I logged in, it has my account here, which means that it already knows that I am logged in, which means that if you go to Canvas and you log in and then you go to get your Canvas link to get the class, it's going to take you straight into your classes, and it's already authenticated you through single sign-on. I hope this helps. Bye-bye. So that explanation about single sign-on is probably one of the greatest challenges that causes students to not make it to class. Okay. I got a question in the chat that says, can I record on Zoom as a student? The answer is no. It is disabled for students to record. That is normally the case, okay? Your teachers can record. And so my recommendation to you is that if you think that it's a good idea to record the lesson, ask your teachers to do it. It's very simple. They just press the button and it records. The biggest challenge when it comes to recording videos is to make sure that you spotlight the person who's recording the video, because, well, you don't want to have everybody's faces on it because you want to focus on what's important. So a good question about that. Question says, why can't my teachers use the same Zoom link? I can't keep up with the different links. I feel your frustration. The reason for that is, well, we're trying to protect you. That's the truth. If your teacher's changing the links all the time, that's challenging, and maybe you should ask your teacher about that. But when we started off the school year, your teacher kind of issued their personal meeting room link, okay? And you knew it was that meeting room link because it had a bunch of numbers in it. Eventually, we switched over to a meeting room with a password. We did that to protect you. We did that because we put that number with the password in it into the classroom so that when only the people who could access the class in Canvas have the ability to access your class, okay? We didn't want to have strangers interrupting your learning. Then we integrated single sign-on. Single sign-on meant that if, for example, a stranger picked up your password because you left your computer logged in, okay, that they couldn't join in on your class and harass your classmates, okay? That's an example. All of the steps that are inconvenient for you, and we acknowledge that, we're doing it to keep you safe, because in other places, they've done some things that are just not okay. And we said that we weren't going to accept that for our students. And so if it's hurt you, then I'm really sorry. And nothing should interfere with your learning. If you need help, talk to your principal, talk to your assistant principal, talk to your teacher first, okay? And tell them that you can't get in. And don't let yourself get frustrated. I know it's stressful, but we are in it together, and we need you to keep trying even if you do feel stress. Question says, what are some of the tricks I can use with Zoom? Well, the big ones you kind of already know about. For example, chatting. You can use the, let me see if I can show this to you. Yeah, I'm gonna do it this way. All right, one of the things that you can do is when you pull up the participants tab, what it does is it shows you the name of all of the people on the screen. And so I'm gonna see if it's gonna let me do this, because it doesn't show everything perfect this way. So what I'm gonna try to do is I'm going to trick my computer into showing you a little bit more. So you're gonna see the background on my computer, but I wanna do that to try to help you. So I'm cool with that. So we're gonna take a ride over to screen 2. Hold on tight. So right now I'm seeing a list of all the participants that are in here with me. So Mr. Jones and I, we're the co-hosts, okay? And so as you can see, the microphone tab and the camera, we are the ones who are, microphone when it's red means that we're not recording, and the only microphone that is on right now is mine, and mine is the only camera that's on. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second, and I'm gonna show you something else. The other thing that I want you to take a look at is when you open up that participants tab down at the bottom, it opens up this menu at the bottom here. This menu at the bottom shows your reactions. Your teachers need to know that you're reacting. If I can't see your face and I can't hear your voice, I can't tell the difference between somebody who fell asleep and somebody who put a stranger in front of the computer, or somebody who is focused and engaged. So teachers, what we want you to do is to engage in the class. And when you open up that participants tab, you have these little buttons here. And one of them says yes or no. And we don't worry so much about go slower or go faster, but this one here that says more, that one's pretty fun, because the more reaction gets a lot of, it's got the applause feature or the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and there's more reactions inside there. And it's a lot of fun, but we definitely want you to be interacting with the class. I see some more questions. What are some of the, what my teacher sounds like she is yelling on Zoom. Yeah, I can understand that. It generally, that happens when you got a couple of issues going on, and I'm gonna see if I can capture this so you can see. So I'm gonna press a button right here and see if that helps. Oh, good, it's gonna do it. Hold on a second, I'm taking a picture for you guys. All right, I'm gonna take you back over to screen 2. Hold on tight. So I'm gonna start off this way. Not every teacher has the same setup. So I'm gonna start off with that. Many of you have different types of Chromebooks. The setup that I have is not the same setup that every teacher has. It is by pure chance that I happen to have an HD webcam. It is by pure chance that I have a high quality microphone. And it is by pure chance that I have an extra 8 gigabytes of RAM inside my computer. And so if I didn't make these adjustments, well, let me show you. There's nothing worse than a teacher with a monotone. If I didn't have a different camera, then you'd be looking at me like this. Not a fun view. You mentioned the audio. This is the microphone that I'm using, but if I switch to the microphone on the camera, which I am right now, it sounds very different. And if I switch to the microphone on the laptop, it sounds even more different. The thing is that not everybody has this. In this case, for me, I happened to, by pure luck, have this equipment, and I just turned it on. And so if you're just using the microphone on the computer, then it's going to sound different. But if your teacher's voice sounds like an opera singer or sounds a little garbly, the fact of the matter is that teacher's engaged, the teacher loves you, and the teacher genuinely wants you to get that information. And if you are having trouble, just let them know, and they will do anything they can. Back on the other screen, what I was trying to show you is that sometimes you can make adjustments. For example, changing the speaker volume right here, okay? In this case, I could turn the volume down, or I could turn the volume up, or I can set it to automatically adjust the volume, okay? Another thing I can do is I can look at the statistics. Now that's not terribly a big idea because in the Chromebook, it's impaired. But another thing I wanted to show you real quick is sometimes it's a good idea for you to give your internet a quick speed check. So what I do is I go to speedtest.net. This is a personal preference. It's not a sponsor, obviously. So I'm going to hit go. And when it gets here, I'm going to do a check. And so ping is my connection from how fast it is from my computer to the internet. Download is how fast is how much I can bring down. And upload is how far I can go out. So right now, my internet is doing okay. 22 is fast. As long as that ping speed is under 100, you're good. And even still, as long as you're under 200, it's totally workable. For this download, I don't need very much, okay, for us to be able to communicate. And for that upload, I need 1, and I've got 11, okay? And so as far as my internet connection is going, I'm doing pretty good. When I go back to these Zoom bandwidth requirements, we are absolutely doing a group phone call. And so for a 1080p HD video, which all of the laptops have 1080p HD cameras, you need 1.5 up and 1.5 down. And so here's the deal, my friends. If your internet is not that strong, the computer will adjust. But one thing that the computer cannot adjust for is this. And I'm going to turn it so you can look at my eyes. If you have 20 tabs open on your Chrome while you're trying to stream class, it can't adjust for that. You're using too much of the computer's memory and it starts to slow down. So when you're using it, do whatever you can to just try to keep the minimum amount of tabs that you need open. So then you're saying, hey, chef, what about zooming on my phone? Sure, you can zoom on your phone. You know what else you can do? You can access Canvas on your phone. And so maybe you can look at look at the class on Canvas and focus on Zoom on your laptop. That's one thing. And so what you want to do is listen to your teacher's advice about where to focus your attention, because often they're going to take it straight to you. Another question says, how is Zoom different from Canvas? Zoom is different, and I get confused trying to help my child. Plus, some use Google Classroom too much. I understand your confusion. I truly do. My children use Google Classroom as well. And the way to explain it to you is like this. The way your teachers communicate with your children directly is through Zoom. This is the way that we look at each other eye to eye. What Zoom does and what Google Classroom do is they facilitate instruction when our eyes aren't together. So the lessons appear on Classroom, the lessons appear in Canvas. They just appear differently. Canvas is what's called a learning management system. It does tests, it does lessons, it builds modules. It's designed for a long-lasting effect. And Google Classroom does the same thing, but it's just not as, it doesn't do it as easily. When it comes down to is that Durham Public Schools has made the decision that teachers will use Canvas. There are some teachers out there that I am aware of that are using Google Classroom, but what they're doing is they're doing that to try to facilitate instruction in an easier format for younger students. And so that's what's up with that. It's not a one worse or better than the other. It's teachers are trying to facilitate instructions to make it easier for you. If it's a problem, always talk to your teacher, because your teachers have the ability to maybe print stuff out. Or what I've done for some of my students is I'll create just a private spot inside Google Classroom that they can only focus on, because sometimes you've got the static noise of everything going on when you just need to focus on one thing. So talk to your teacher. How do I get to that setting screens with the volume? Down on the bottom, you have a button there that says mute or stop video. There's an up arrow. You click on the up arrow, and you look for something that says settings, and then a whole bunch of stuff pops up. It's in the settings. It's pretty easy. Does Zoom translate into Spanish? My mother doesn't speak English. I'm sorry, it doesn't. But Zoom has just enabled closed captioning. So your teacher can enable the closed captioning feature, and so you can at least get it in English that way. I know that creates a lot of stress. My recommendation for you is to work with your teacher. I have many students of mine who speak Spanish, and me personally, I'm very sensitive to it. Another thing that I do is I have students who communicate with me through Remind in Spanish. They communicate with me directly in Spanish, and then I respond to them in English, and we do a little bit of Google Translate to make sure to help each other understand, and we just acknowledge that the grammar might be a little off. Your teachers want to work with you, and if necessary, then we'll get help from the Multicultural Resource Center, and we'll get some language support that way. I know that it's stressful. Our time is just about up. I think we're just about done with questions. I think I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to Mr. Jones if there's nothing else then, my friends. I really appreciate all the great questions that you sent me, and I'll always be here to help you just like all of your other teachers, and I really appreciate you allowing me into your homes this evening. Take care, Mr. Jones.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beretti, for your presentation on Zoom. Very helpful. Questions being answered, and really learned a lot tonight. So thank you for helping our parents out with that and our families. I just want to do a quick reminder before we close out. Our next how-to webinar session will be on Wednesday. That's going to be cultural celebrations. And that will be a great class. So please tune in for that. Again, I want to thank all our families for coming out tonight and spending time with us. And we hope that you learned a little bit more about Zoom. So thank you all so much. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night.